Hello, this is Bharat Modi. I have written a book on evidence-based education system. Now, when we talk about evidence-based, naturally research is one of the main criteria which is there. And in research, bias is something which we need to avoid at all costs. So that for that we should know what bias is and how it can happen. Bias is generally generated into any research. Basically, when we are considering scientific evidence, and with the in the evaluation of that scientific evidence, if our prior beliefs are incorporated in the way we look at the scientific evidence, like your attitude, personal experiences, beliefs, influences, all these are responsible for creating bias, and that is why the actual efficacy of that particular research comes into question. Now, bias can arise from so many different things. Basically, it is personal bias of the researcher, the attitude which it gets, or the conditions which under which that particular research is being done. And all these are listed here. Let us see each one in detail. Every researcher or every other doctor which is there may have its personal perceptions, which are dependent on what he has heard, what he has experienced, what he or she has experienced, and that creates a kind of a perception which may not be the right thing for a researcher. For a researcher, there should be a blank mind, and should he accept whatever is coming as far as from the research evidence. The self-serving nature, sometimes it is there. You do research because you need to have to be recognized as a researcher. That personal quotient may be there. Self-interest bias also is there because you are interested in getting positive results, and that is why you are doing it. Self-prediction and hindsight will be there. You are predicting before the research that yes, this is going to be positive, and that will generally cloud your mind or your vision, and that is why that particular self opinion which is there, you are just looking at research for confirming that. And this is basically because of the attitude incorrectness of the researcher when he approaches the research project. Bias can also appear if the way we are presenting to the data may not be correct. For example, for risk estimation, you can have either absolute risk differences or you can have risk ratio. Normally, risk differences will highlight the difference of the risk, when actually if you take the risk ratio, that difference may not be that much, and that is how bias creeps in. Self-interest and gratification seeking is also another factor in which, because of which bias can come in, because that is all personal. First impressions which are there sometimes becoming an anchoring effect. So whatever the first impression the researcher has, he becomes judgmental, and that represents as a bias in that. So personal problems and attitude incorrectness both will give rise to such a effect. Sometimes the research, either because of overconfidence or because he is caught up with some other work also along with the research, he lacks a certain amount of thoroughness, and that is why certain places the protocol gets disturbed, and that protocol disturbance is going to create effect on the efficacy or the results of that particular research. Sometimes there are constraints of the technology. The resources may not be easily available. Or for example, the original article from which the research is being taken, in that article the technology used was something different, and the researcher may not have that same technology with him, then in that consideration, the research may not be as good. So continuing with inefficiency and the cost constraint is the result by which you get bias, which are basically resource nature. Bias in a nutshell is the worth of an evidence. How worthy is the evidence which you are getting from any research, and that is what basically bias does. Any influence which systematically overestimates or underestimates away from the true value is called bias, and that is why both internal and external variables which are there, which will veer away the results away from what is the true value, causes the bias. The way people respond to a study, which is your patient motivation, financial consideration, or patients, if they are financed, then because of the finance they will give you certain results, and that may create bias. The characteristic of the people should be known, because randomization is important. If you take the hierarchy of evidence, then randomization is high, because when you do randomization, in contrast to a cohort study, the population is not biased. It is a wide range of population, and then that particular research can be generalized to other populations also, and that is why it is important. The way researchers have conducted the study, most important. The protocol which they have selected, the way they have conducted, will all influence and create bias in that. So bias should not be confused with random variation, which is inherently possible in any population which we do. Bias is something which is go beyond that. Another thing is the response bias. So sometimes people are from different backgrounds and cultures, and that is why their reporting may appear to be different. For example, in certain ethnic groups, birth control pills are not supposed to be used. Then in that case, if those are included in your study on birth control, then your results will go wrong. Similarly, misreporting also is possible when you are doing surveys with lengthy questionnaires. Both the patient as well as the researcher gets tired, and then inadequate responses are being registered. And this is what is underestimating or overestimating. A shift in one direction is what we say is basically arising from this. So EBS fundamentals tells you that research should be promoted of all those research designs which reduce bias, like your randomized control trials, systemic reviews, meta-analysis in systemic reviews. These are the best kind of evidence which are there, and that is why that evidence pyramid is there. Many a times we use our assistants to do the research work, who are not trained basically to do that. So that is why whenever a research is being done with this kind of personnel, they need to be trained beforehand, before their research is to be done. And if that is not done, they will create wrong kind of reporting. Similarly, if you are using non-validated questionnaire, now questionnaire is the tool by which you are trying to judge how much, what is the reporting which is there. But if that itself is invalid, if that questionnaire is not been validated, it is not been done a pilot study to find out whether that questionnaire is good enough or not, then in those cases that particular questionnaire is always going to give you wrong information, and that is why research design becomes very important. In this book we have tried to expose the different matters by which research can be spoiled, and this research is actually going to be used as evidence, and that is why if you have to have an evidence based education system which is very good, your research also should be good. So this book actually explains, it takes you in a walkthrough manner by giving examples and using scripts, so that you are able to understand it much better and adopt it in your research or day to day practice. Integrating EBS in practice and education is what is required, because today we are not we are taking evidence based process as a separate subject, and that is why it doesn't get integrated, whereas evidence based education system promotes that it should be used as a day to day purpose. COVID research which was there was a great awakening. It realized so many lacunae. Healthcare delivery, the research evidence and the protocol are based on this kind of evidence which we have generated. So healthcare delivery is based on that, and that is why it needs to be good. Evidence supported changes in the curricular structure, ecosystem and learning processes are something which is required and which is not there today. And faculty development is the need of the hour, because we are choosing our faculty on their graduations and whatever degrees they are having. We are not seeing whether they are actually teachers or not. Another thing that in this book what we are promoting, the methodology is based on the three domains which are there, the cognitive domain, the psychomotor and affective. Cognitive again is divided into recall, interpretive and problem solving. Psychomotor, there is so many things, dexterity, your ergonomics, all these things come into picture. Affective domains is the way you speak, the way you communicate, and the most important part is the listening skill. That is more important. And the soft skills which are there, basically of professionalism, leadership, all those things are also included in the evidence base on a day-to-day basis. The curriculum itself is spiral in nature, which is the need of the hour. It is patient-centric and not student or faculty-centric. It is experiential and there is a coordination-based curriculum. Competency as defragmented, broken down into smaller areas, and each small area is taken on a Likert scale, and that is how it becomes very objective, not subjective. Technology based, the whole thing we incorporate technology, whether it is AI or whether it is coding, whatever, and the template has been given, which is basically on spiral base, chief complaint of the patient base, and not on discipline wise. With discipline wise you are getting very limited information. It don't get integrated information, and healthcare is holistic in nature, it is integrated, and that is why our maximum is integration, inclusiveness, interpretive and comprehensiveness. These are the things which we are basically looking at when you are looking at evidence based education. Thank you for your patient listening, and what has been presented is not even the tip of an iceberg. The entire thing is there in the book. It is very comprehensive. About 1200 pages are there, based on 2 volumes which are there, and that is why it's a very comprehensive book, and something like a textbook for the students, for the faculty, for private practitioners, for everybody. This is something which is integrated to healthcare, and that is why it is necessary for everybody. And the curriculum part which is there, that part is applicable from primary school right up to higher education, because the fundamentals remains the same, but maybe the application becomes different. Though this book is applicable to medical, dental, nursing and other paramedical staff. And the examples also are given for that particular purpose. The entire book is can be utilized as a basis for educational reforms. Thank you once again. We request you to visit our website and the blog which is contained in that, and interact with us so that we can carry forward this evidence base. I do not claim that I have given you everything about evidence base. It is only with proper conversation, proper discussion that we can carry this forward, because it is the need of the hour for us. Thank you very much, and please visit our website.